entering the offseason, where was sort of Tim Anderson on your, maybe priority or like somebody you would like to get?
We knew that we were looking for shortstops, that we felt honestly pretty good about the shortstop options that we had in-house, but it was still something that we were going to try to look to upgrade. And so there's a lot of different conversations that happen, free agent conversations, trade conversations. A lot of those conversations happened. Nothing led until an actual deal until this point, but sometimes patience pays off.
What sort of boxes does he check for you guys?
Oh, I think those are very easy to see, right? I mean, he's been a batting champion. He's been an all-star. He's a dynamic type of player on both sides of the ball. Really good defender. Does a lot of things well. Good base runner, steals bases. He had a tough year last year, but he's not very far removed from being a really, really good player.
I feel like this is it in terms of these like big moves, or are you still kind of...
Never say never. We're always having conversations, right? It's the same thing I've said before, but it really is true. Sometimes these conversations lead nowhere. Sometimes they lead to us signing players. Sometimes they're going to lead to trades. It's my job to always have those conversations.
Not many teams can say that have two batting champs in the same lineup. How do you think that can impact the way you plan games and the way you approach?
I think it'll mean that we're going to get a lot of hits.
Yeah.
I think having a deep lineup where each guy is a tough out, I think that really builds on itself. And I think the depth of a lineup where a pitcher doesn't have any place where he can take a break or that he can have an easier at bat, I think that really helps the lineup play above the sum of its parts.
How much do you think this fresh start could help Tim Anderson?
I hope it'll help him a lot. I think that everything that we've heard about Tim Anderson, he sounds like a really great guy, honestly. He sounds like a really good player. Sounds like somebody who a change of scenery is going to help. A little bit of a reset is going to help. The amount of pressure that baseball players are under on a daily basis is incredible, and just kind of having a fresh start can be a really helpful thing.
Peter, Tim alluded to injuries being a big part as to potentially why he may have struggled last year. In your research and sort of deciding whether or not to sign him, are you in agreement with that? Confidence level is primarily that was the reason you think that struggles were?
It's hard for me to say why any player struggles or does well. I know that we did, extensive research into his health, into his conditions, into what we expect from him this year. I do think that he's very likely to have a much better season this year, and he knows what to do to take care of his body and to stay healthy.
You had mentioned, obviously, there were guys in the system, I guess, already that could be shortstop, but not necessarily natural shortstops. How important, though, for that position to have a guy who, shortstop, where it's the captain of the infield, I guess. The middle of the field we hear so much about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that position gets a lot of plays, right? And there's a big difference between guys who are good at it and guys who are not. And the defense is a really important part of our success last year and what we expect to do moving forward. So that's probably one of the most important defensive positions on the field.
With the game starting now, like during games, what do you kind of look for in terms of how you evaluate players, for roster decisions, that sort of thing? What do you kind of look for?
A lot of it is just getting to know these guys, watching them play for me for the first time in a lot of cases, and seeing how they move, seeing how comfortable they get. It's spring training. It's very easy to overreact to performance, and we have to keep in mind that ultimately the job of spring training is to prepare yourself for the season. And so different players have different ways of going about that, and it's about each person making sure they do what they need to do to be ready to go on March 28th? 28th.
Seeing you in the backfield, walking around, watching guys, talking with guys, what are some of your maybe observations so far, maybe players that you maybe learned a little bit more about or like that stood out to you?
The vibes in camp have been great. I think this is a group that really likes one another. I think it's a coaching staff that's really close-knit, that sets expectations for players that players really want to play for and really gets the best out of them. This is a time of the year to be optimistic, but you can tell everybody here wants to be here, they're excited to be here, and they're excited to build on last year.